Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 17th episode of Coffee with Ashish Season 2. And today we've
Oh,
got with us a very special guest, Dharamveer Chouhan, who's the co-founder and CEO of Hostel.
Hostel.
Hostel was started in 2013 and it's been recognized as a disruptive organization by various industry veterans. It closed its first round of funding in early 2014 with a valuation of 22 crores and has been now working since profitably with minimal cash burn. And Dharamveer is at the helm of affairs. He guides the vision of Social by enabling experienced seekers to fearlessly explore the length and breadth of the country. He is a graduate from IIT BHU 2012 batch and then went on to earn his master's in business administration from IIM Calcutta. He also took away many invaluable lessons from his early startup entrepreneurial journey. And under his leadership, Zostel has established itself as a market leader in the country's budget accommodation space with over 2,000 beds in 36 locations across India and Nepal. Apart from Zostel, Dharamveer is also a business enabler, mentor, and angel investor. He has made successful exits from companies like Razorpay, and he has also invested in startups like Cube26, which got acquired by Paytm, Realbox Media, and he's associated with more than 100 tech ventures as a strategic advisor, guiding emerging startups on their way to achieving business growth and scale. He's also a hardcore poker enthusiast, and he divides his time between learning new things and gaming. So, with this, a very warm welcome to you, Dharamveer, on our show. And I'm going to request Ashish to have a conversation with you while I also enjoy my coffee. Welcome, Dharamveer.
Okay, thank you, Karthik, for such a kind introduction. I think you've been kind with the words. Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
yeah. Welcome, Dharmeer. And the last time or the first time we were speaking, you were telling me
Hmm.
about the hostel idea. It's
Right.
so let's take our viewers through it briefly.
Just how did the idea
Yeah,
largely
yeah.
the larger
Why is
story?
why is hostel?
Sure. So I did write, a Wise Hostel blog, personally, from my heart, just to answer. And I think every entrepreneur should write one for himself, whatever they are trying to do.
Right.
And, our larger vision was, after everything, just converged towards the direction that there's so much more to see in India. And we largely figured out that, the first thing is that there are not enough infrastructure for even, young people like us to go around traveling India. So we just decided that we'll keep our heads down and open backpacker hostels all across the country. But I'll go a bit behind that. How did we even come up with this challenge or the realization that there's so much more that we could do in India when it comes to travel? And one thing led to another. I was very lucky in the sense, I just shut down my last startup. I ran a gaming studio from 2009 to 2011 for almost 3 years. Just towards the end, I ran it to 2012 actually. And in 2011, I got an opportunity for an internship in Germany, in the southern part of Germany. There's this place called as Karlsruhe.
Yeah.
And I was 21 as well. I was in IIT third year. It was very well paid internship. So I just, joined over there, and I had this deal with my professor that, I'll work probably 3 hours extra Monday to Thursday. And Germany, nobody works after 5 p.m. So, so he was very happy that he'll work extra. And I requested him that, give me Fridays off so that I can travel around, and I had this URail pass with me. So there's this pass that you get in Europe. I wish there was a similar pass in India as well. And it's very in India, anyways. The prices are way cheaper, and you don't need sometimes a lot of reservation. But anyways, what this URail pass really enables you to do is that you can catch any high speed train all across Europe,
Hmm.
be it in Germany, be it in Spain, be it in Italy, wherever, in Austria, Belgium. And the only thing that you need is that you have this URL pass. You can mark down the date that today is 15th, and for 15 days you can travel anytime, or 15 days. So that was my enabler for me to just travel all across, because once if you have at least some way to affordably go from one place to another, then comes the next part. How will we sleep? The first thing is to reach itself.
Hmm.
And so I just first weekend, I still remember first weekend I went to, Austria is very close to Germany. So I went over there. Next weekend I went towards the western side. I went towards Belgium. Then another week I went till Netherlands. Then I went, south in the France region as well, Switzerland as well, sometimes in North Germany. And gradually, across these almost 14, 15 weeks, I traveled to, around 11 odd countries, through Europe. They are very small. It's like going to different states in India. But anyways, it's big. I think even going to 10, 11 states in India is a good enough trip. And towards the end, I was very bold enough. I now, towards the end of my internship, I had understood how things work, so I could plan a bit longer. And I planned a week-long trip, from Germany to Spain. And during that was a very adventurous trip, and at very less budget. I think I'd completed that almost 5 to 6 day trip in under 60 euros, less than 10 euros a day. And I think even cheaper than that. But anyways, before you guys imagine that I was literally on the streets, I'll keep it at 50 euros. And so I think during that trip I realized that what was I really afraid of. I realized that there is something. At the end of the day, we are all humans. I could really sleep anywhere peacefully. I could sleep on a railway station. I actually got lost in this trip. In the suburbs of Barcelona, I got lost in a place called as Badalona, and it was 30 kilometers away from Barcelona. But I thought that I was supposed to meet a friend in Badal metro station, but I was very oversmart, so I thought what he really means is Badalona, and I ended up in suburbs over there. And there was nobody over there. Pitch dark, 11:30, and I realized that the next train will also come in the morning. So raat yahin pe bitani hai on the beach, and I had this bag with me, and I found a big rock for windy. Cold winds were blowing as well, and I slept off. I woke up, I grabbed a coffee and a croissant from a nearby coffee shop in the morning. And this was my 4th year. I was about to come back to India, and I've been into these rat races, and just figured out that I'll just keep following my heart. I'll just probably this is a completely new epiphany. The traveling itself is a great learning experience. I felt very strongly, just traveling outside, meeting these other cultures, be it Australians, be it getting lost myself. I realized that in India we have a lot of pressure, Ashish. In India, when you are young, even 10-year-old, even in 10th standard, this whole young period, you have to figure out what you have to do in life. You have to have an answer. I will become an engineer, I will become a doctor. Everybody wants to know how you will make money. What is your game plan? What will you study? Give me the standard answer. Commerce karega, kya karega, right? And this is a very Indian culture thing. If you look outside and you travel, you'll figure out that they are still figuring out, and it's okay for them. So what I had really learned from the good part from these Australian guys was that they were 23 and they just answered that we are still figuring out what we want to do in life. And it was very profound in the sense that you don't hear such answers in India. It's kind of embarrassing. I think now the trend might be changing. This is 10 years back what I'm talking about. And I just love the idea. I love the idea that if young people in India, they could really travel and meet other cultures, maybe other cultures from India, maybe other cultures from outside India. It'll really give them a much broader perspective. My whole idea, the name that I came up with before Hostel was Seekers, with the larger idea that when people travel, they travel outside to seek insight, a bit of a spiritual angle to the whole traveling genre itself, and the activity itself. And I really felt very strongly that backpacker hostel is such a place for young minded individuals. And I kept the idea with myself that we'll probably figure out how to open a why. Then I committed myself to studying that why are there not any backpacker hostels in here. This is 2011. So 2011 to 2013, almost 2 years, I was very dedicatedly studying the market. I was very dedicatedly studying how the global market has changed. And if you will understand that backpacker hostel has existed in Europe since last 50 years. They always had backpacker hostels. In Belgium, they always had shared dorms for travelers. And maybe they had earlier in India as well. Maybe over a period of time we degraded in quality and safety expectations. A lot of youth hostels maybe. And I couldn't really figure out that why we don't have such great options. And therefore was the whole kida that why is hostel. Let's try to build the infrastructure and let's see what it gives us. How does the community react? How things happen, and we'll take it from there in that sense.
Right. So, one, of course, has heard of YMCAs and YWCAs in our own growing up here.
Did you stay at any of those?
No,
in
no,
India?
not really. I was always very curious to do that, but never got a chance to, frankly, do that. But having said that, while you scan the world, what would have been an equivalent to what Zostel is today globally as a good brand? And well, I don't know about India. If you have equivalent, what's your position here?
Right. So obviously, in India, see, internationally is a much easier thing to compare to understand, what Zostel really is. And internationally, there are, a couple of hostel brands. There is this hostel brand called as, Mad Monkey or something in the
Hmm.
Southeast Asia. They do pretty good with
Right.
their hostels. But, Zostel is very unique in the same. There's another one called as Generator Hostels,
Hmm.
and these guys have very luxurious kind of hostels that are over 400 beds. So these are real estate assets that are the size of a five-star hotel, and they're not in any way lesser in size than a five-star hotel, but yet there are dorms, and they are in the peak of cities, London, Barcelona, and it's now private equity owned. I think they have even changed hand multiple times, and they've been growing pretty well as well. And I think that is where Zostel might evolve. So I think what we did with Zostel was we open sourced in the Indian industry that how to build a hostel. So today, although we have these, you mentioned 36, today we have over 44 hostels in India, but there are almost 1,000 more hostels, Ashish. Because what happens is once there is one hostel, it will inspire. Every day it is inspiring hundreds of people. That hey, yaar, why can't I do this? Once one person opens a budget hotel, others also start thinking, why can't they do it? Once one guy opens a restaurant, others also think, why can't they do it? So I think when we started off hostel and we open sourced that this is how much it will cost, this is how much you can expect to make, and people also did their own 2+2. Several other people opened their own hostel. So we went with the idea that we don't want to be at Hostel, we don't want that all hostels should belong to us, this is our industry. We largely believe that this is an ecosystem, Ashish, that it is just coming up, the whole ecosystem of backpacker travel, budget friendly travel. See, India has, obviously, we all, jokingly say, we all know that India has less travelers than, let's say, Thailand, or let's say, Southeast Asia on a global scale. Whereas our potential is way higher, where you and I both know that India can have travelers equivalent of Europe, if not more. But there is an image change that is required, and, we are going through it. I think I remember when I was starting up, all of my researches would, and I come from this hospital background in Rajasthan also. So all of my studies would always tell me that the whole Indian, a larger aspect of our industry had taken shortcuts, in terms of, even if there is a Westerner who's coming to India, if they either there is a travel agent who wants to mug him, $1,500 $2,000 scam हो रहा है, ठीक है,
Hmm.
जो कोई आया है foreigner से आते से scam हो रहा है, that you can't go here, the police is blockage is there, you take this travel package of 1 lakh 2 lakh, whatever it is, right? And similarly, that's on the highest level, and if he's walking on the streets, there'll be many beggars that will probably climb to him, in the sense that we help us out in any. So we, it just becomes a very difficult experience for anybody to experience India. It's an adulterated experience, and you become
Right.
afraid to meet people and other people as well. So I think where we realize that this is an ecosystem in which there is a lemons and oranges problem, that if I go to Manali, there are, let's say, 10 bike sellers in Manali. Now 7 of them might be good, but 3 of them might be bad, or vice versa. It's very difficult for me to understand who is doing good, who is doing bad. So where Zostel really enabled the local ecosystem, and you know the travel industry, Ashish, it's very lovely. It's the hospitality industry is all made of people who want to give others a great experience of their region. That
Hmm.
boss, you experience this kind of Manali, you experience this Guwahati, you experience this Rajasthan, you love it. That is the purest form of travel. The local host that is showing other people around that their whole region. So today in Zostel we have these franchisees that are are entrepreneurs of the region. They are our local entrepreneurs and who run everything. So that's what I was getting at, that we never felt that we should this is our own science, so we will not teach anybody else how to do hostels. We realized that we'll teach everybody else how to do hostels, and during this transition we'll probably continue to build systems, technology, product, brand that will help all of these people. And if we'll keep adding value, we'll be able to extract value with as simple as that. That अगर बहुत सब किसी और का पैसा बनेगा तो वो मुझे भी 10% शायद दे ही देगा,
Hmm.
in that scene. And I think we are in very early stages. Today's hostel can be very well looked as an asset class, in which there are thousands of people who come to us with their land or their property that partner with us. There are thousands of people who come to us with money that we want to invest in Zostel or physical real estate, buy a piece of Zostel. And similarly, thousands of people who come to us to invest time. So today, it is an asset class in which people are willing to invest their land, money, or time. And we are the one who connects all of these together, make sure that the system is running, make sure that the value is growing, and then extract value from it.
Right, right.
So it's very unique. Globally, also, there's
I
nobody who's particularly exactly how we are doing. Yeah.
Right. And as far as youth brands are concerned, of course, globally, we are used to a brand like Kontiki Holidays, which is an under 30 holidays, which really revived youth tourism
Oh, really?
across.
Okay.
But coming back to Zostel in India, I am a personal witness to your franchisee of Kempty Falls in Missouri,
Oh, very nice.
which is owned by a school friend of mine. His daughter
Oh,
actually runs it. But having said that, Arvind, who's my friend, he's very well connected to all the villagers in that region, in the Kempty region, because of course we've studied there and so on.
right.
And I've come across, what I've heard tales is that it's not exactly backpackers, students who or people who have left midway
Absolutely.
their careers after 6 or 7 years of something and suddenly decided, like the same you did, an urge to
Right.
travel.
Right.
And all camping around a bonfire, villagers from local villages coming in and joining. Yeah, it's a great experience if you can carry it to the lowest level across the country. But let's come back to
Absolutely.
the country. And again, when I spoke to you at some stage, you were very passionate, of course, on domestic tourism. So what's the landscape you see in 21, 22, now that we've been hit through this crisis, and your learnings in the ecosystem, and what do you want to carry post-COVID? Zostel and beyond Zostel.
Sure. I think the larger focus is hostel, for myself as well, and the period as well. I think, this obviously this whole disruption that has happened in the travel industry. If you'll hear, the kind of travel that I like, Ashish, I like this whole self-actualization kind of travel in which you are traveling slowly, you are discovering, and you are knowing about yourself, you are figuring out what you want to do in life. And I think, post COVID, what has really happened is that at least for the top 1%, see the top 1% who have these digital jobs, you, me, doing this digital webinar, so if effortlessly, even if I was doing something else just a couple of minutes before, I realized that, I have to join you guys, and I could very easily join you guys as well. So I think, post pandemic, what has really happened is that now that people can work from anywhere, they are, coming up with their first principle doubts that, why do I even live in a city?
Yeah.
Why do I live in Mumbai? Why do I live in Gurgaon? And if it's going to be so polluted, and it's not just India thing. We know that the whole Silicon Valley exodus is going on. Why do we need to be in San Francisco? Why don't you go to Miami? Why don't you go to Florida? And their mayors are fighting that you should come to over here. We have a better environment, better tech ecosystem. So I think work from home and the whole information age in which people can exchange information, work from anywhere. Now that is really changing the travel trends. From us saying that we want to go on a weekend outing, just but really coming to what you really said, that people taking a break after 5 years, 6 years, and traveling for months altogether. That let's just go and experience the whole region. Maybe stay in Beer for a month, and work from there, read from there, do whatever I do from there. Become one with nature. So I think this is the larger trend, and I'm very excited with the with the fact that the technology penetration has happened so deeply that now I can even have all of my staff in all of my properties with smartphones and WhatsApp. So that what basically means is that we have never really imagined, Ashish, just imagine, we have never really imagined hospitality when all of your service staff is one ping away, right? So basically what we can do is now we can build systems in which you can just WhatsApp me on my my single number that hey, I need a new bed sheet, or I need a washroom cleanup, or a room cleanup, and we can just redirect the whole thing. Because we know that this is the user, we can redirect it to the server, we can fetch their booking, we can fetch their check-in details, we can then give back the assignment to a staff that your boss, go and clean this room. If you do it within the next 20 minutes, you get, let's say, 10 rupees tip or 50 rupees tip. So we can really rethink the whole hospitality. So I'm very excited about how the service industry really functions when all of your key components are mobile connected, as well as in the sense always internet connected. So that's one of the exciting things. And I'll throw it back to you, maybe Ashish, and pick it up from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to actually ask you about digital engagement, but while you were talking, I'm just imagining because for youth to be able to travel, to be inspired to travel, work from anywhere, do whatever, there has to be a virtualization. I have to be sitting in Delhi to imagine, oh, what the hell am I doing here? Let me just go to Kempty or okay, and do that. So I'm just imagine Hostel like webinars available to the public, which you are actually having a live streaming on a site in Kempty, and you see
Right.
people sitting around the bonfire doing whatever,
Right.
and whole lot of people in cafes or whatever seeing live streaming and say, why should I be in Gurgaon? Why should I
Right.
be there? I think that would
Right.
be a lovely promotion to be able to
Right.
get your message. Uh,
Absolutely.
leave Gurgaon
Absolutely.
and get to Mukteshwar,
Right. So
wherever.
there is an inspirational angle to, how you communicate back what is going on live
Yeah,
at your places. And I think, that is happening, Ashish, with social media stories that are so live that,
correct.
that probably tell you that, this was happening yesterday, that this was happening in this place yesterday. So that's there. And this whole, if you look at India, and I see that the growth of, I keep talking that the highways that are now being built, the tier 2 airports that are now opening up, that are really unlocking the next 100 destinations, that we never knew about. We have always grown up hearing Masuri, Jodhpur, but we never really heard that much, maybe about Beer, maybe about LEP, and several other pieces, maybe in Himachal region, all of the smaller villages that are now being put on the map. So I think exciting things are happening on that front. And I was just about to add, with this whole technological things that are happening, that I keep challenging my team to even rethink that, why do we have a check-in, check-out time? That is my, question to sometimes to my, property managers as well, as that, obviously there's this system that the whole ecosystem runs on it, and, you get bookings from OTAs, etc. But even if on our platform, how do we convert it completely that, people who want to do an early check-in, people who want to do a late checkout, it all integrates itself in a very seamless manner, that if you have stayed for a couple of hours more, that get added in a certain sense. If you're staying less, that's there. You're checking in late, that's there. And if you can really make sure that the housekeeping aspect of things, because otherwise housekeeping used to happen between that time period. You completely understand it, Ashish. So I just keep pushing people that, yeah, boss, there is new technology, can we do this, can we do this? And I think that's our job. Our job is not to always just run the hostels. I think there are people who are doing that good. We can just keep empowering them, keep giving them more tools, and for us to keep fighting on the frontier to make it easier for people to travel, make it easier for people to, as you just said, be more inspired, be more connected, in the sense that while we are showing that live stream from, let's say, Kodai Canal, we can also audio connect them. If there is a discussion that's happening over there, you can also join that discussion on an audio first platform, maybe not even video. So I think in the nascent stages, and I'm very excited for the decade that this might just be the India decade in which exciting things happen.
Yeah, I agree with you on this check-in, check-out, where I've been challenging established hotelier
Hmm.
to say this norm of check-in, check-out is the passe, according to me. And
Right.
obviously, the things that revolve around housekeeping, etc. I said when a low-cost carrier can turn around in 45 minutes to be able to take the next flight and
Right.
get the aircraft up and running, it's
Right.
only a matter of putting a whole drill in place to be able to clean the room, get the rooms ready for the next guest to come.
It's 20 minutes, yeah, Ashish. We have timed it. We have
Yeah.
timed it, and if somebody does it perfect, it's 20 minutes,
Yeah,
for your.
yeah, yeah. Like I said, 45 minutes is the whole aircraft. So if you can
Right.
do the whole
Amazing.
aircraft drill,
Right. Right.
I mean, that's the optimum for an Indigo, which I've learned.
Yes.
That if you don't turn it around in 45 minutes, you've lost money.
Absolutely. They do it in 45, right? Many times you see the flight coming that, boss, abhi आइए, अब इसमें जाएंगे. Right? That's what happens in Jodhpur and Udaipur. It's the same flight that comes that takes 30 minutes later on.
Yeah, yeah. You stand there, watch it, land, and then
Get
you watch
cleaned
it
up,
go down.
right, right. Don't see it
Okay.
in Delhi, but yeah.
Put a hat of being a tourism minister a few years from now. What would you
Oh,
dream?
okay, okay. So that's exciting. I think this was one of the questions that I was asked in my IM interview. So actually, I had not started Zostel, but my IM interview was a lot around entrepreneurship, and I kept telling that there's so much more that could be done in India, and etc. And I largely come from a marketing perspective. I think what we can do very much more in India is that if we just do a organized study of everything. We are not taking care of our history, heritage sites, and the natural sites, the potential that they have. That's all my, the larger complaint is. And I just, relatively compare it. If you go to Germany, they have a, they have they have a 40, 50-year old heritage site in World War II, maybe. There's this wall that they probably see there. There's some gates that they still have their World War II bullets, and they are the historical sites. You enter that city, the town itself, the local tourism, they give you this young youth map for you to travel through. That map, it will tell you that, boss, this is such a history. And when you tell that story of that place, tell that story of that place, and people who are traveling, they can transport there. So as a tourism minister, I would like to bring the story of each 741 districts of our country, out. That, boss, this is this destination story. This is their own local culture. This is how it evolved. This is their own history. This is what they eat. This is what they make. This is what they sell. This is how they live. This is their life. This is why they live like this. And I think, that's what we love to explore. As human beings, I think it keeps changing. I come from Jodhpur to Barmer to Jaisalmer to Udaipur to back to Jaipur. Every place has its own unique soul. We are just talking about Rajasthan. And if I was in UP, Varanasi while I was studying, my IITian friends, they'll think that Rajasthan mein to pani nahi hai. They'll think that Rajasthan is like Registan, because you haven't seen it. So you have a very simple image. You have a very dumb image, of Northeast, some haryali hai, sadak vadak nahi hoti. Kerala, you'll have some. So we have very small images. Unless we go, touch, explore, and experience it itself. So as a tourism minister, I think I would love to invest as much as possible into, bringing out our stories and the physical real estate that connects this story. This jungle, this heritage site, this last Hindu fort from, let's say, the Chauhans in the Ajmer. So all of those places, if you go today, they aren't that well marketed. And I think, these smaller things have to come together. There is no one jadoo ki jhadi or solution that we can do. See, where I come from, I see that what is Europe today? We all say we love to travel to Europe. Okay, everybody loves to travel to Europe, but what is Europe, right? So if you look at Europe, it is 20 or whatever, now 30 countries together. So each of them is taking care of themselves, right? So Germany has its own culture. They have their own behaviors, etc. French have their own. Italians have their own. Spanish have their own. Portuguese have their own. And similarly, if you go to maybe Northern Europe's, they Scandi, etc. They have their own, right? So what we really need to do is, then you look at Europe, that Europe is safe. I'll travel. Maybe it's not really safe. You go to Amsterdam streets, you'll be mugged. On Milan streets, you will feel unsafe. Naples, you will feel like a whole fucking mafia is running the town itself, right? And I think, that if we can just change that perception that India is a safe place to travel, because, boss, this is all you have to do. This is a simple, let's say, one app, or whatever is the database, that these are 740 or let's say 500 destinations. These are the people you can take care. You can just travel from here to here to here. So I think, that will be a great building step. I'm not talking about the solution. I'm just talking about, laying down a bit more of the foundational blocks right now. And I think rest the entrepreneurs are very hungry. Everybody, it will be a great opportunity. If we can bring more people to India, we don't need to fight that, Taj is better, or Radisson is better, or Hostel is better, or, some other hostel is better. I think India is better than Europe. Let everybody come to India.
On the story part, again, I'll add, I was having a chat with this young girl who studied in Europe. She's from the royal family somewhere near Samalpur in Orissa, who has now moved back into her heritage place, which is
absolutely
200.
She'll have such a rich history, right?
No, and she's telling me it's a 200-year-old Haveli kind of a thing where she stays in Samalpur.
Wow.
They said each room has a history to tell, and they employ staff who worked for generations there.
Right.
They have menus and food which has worked from generations around the whole village and community.
Amazing.
I said, what India should be doing? Each of these, and you don't have to be in Umaid Bhavan Palace to be telling us.
That's the only one we have, right?
Yeah, you want to be in the smallest Haveli, and each Haveli tells a tale. And with the webinars today, because if you look at each of these heritage properties, so to say, heritage properties in India, they've all been catering to the inbound foreign tourists, so to say. They haven't really
always
the domestic audience.
Always.
And if you want to cater to the domestic audience, if you can build a story of where you are staying, I think people will move in that direction. Because that's a great thought. Continue to pursue, and maybe we can at some stage jointly do this.
It's up to you, to get the ears in.
So coming back, and lastly, I have been actively involved in the last few years in mentoring and guiding startups, and I take great passion out of it.
Absolutely.
I've lost count of how many are registered. Just as Karthik mentioned, you're I'm mentoring what over 100 thing. But I've got a huge bank of people who send messages, reach out, take opinion. But
100%.
one thing I hold, if I may use the word, against the startup community over
Right, right.
the years, and there's nothing wrong in that, but
No,
I
no,
hold it
please feel freely. Yeah, we'll have a good convo here.
because I have come across a tendency or build a valuation, exit, make money, right?
Right, right,
And I have been saying build a business.
right,
Forget about making valuation and going, because if you're going to just find money from a VC to finance your sale,
right.
I said I don't like the idea.
Absolutely.
So if there has been a conflict with these youngsters, that's been, I said, please build business if you want to talk to me, not a deal.
Absolutely.
So you tell me, how do you react to that, and where do you
See,
see the
yeah, absolutely, Ashish, and it's such a nice question, yeah, as well. I've been on this, journey for long, and although Karthik mentioned, like it's not officially I'm like an advisor in hundreds of startups. It's just that obviously I've invested in advisory in a couple of few startups, maybe tens in the range of, but there obviously I've always been reachable, Ashish. I've always, just like you, if there's been any ping from any entrepreneur all across the country or outside, I've always given my thoughts. In that sense, I've always advised hundreds, if not more, entrepreneurs.
yeah.
Now, coming to this whole venture capital game, in which let's say you are raising around, you're trying to increase your valuation on your paper valuation, on that sorts. A lot of things really you have to understand that what are you really building, and where will you get that exit from. At the end of the day, if you look at, let's say, the public markets that are today, let's say, obviously, there's been a lot of the public markets have been very well receiving the new IPOs that have been coming up, the tech IPOs in the United States, all of the printing of money by the federal government, the inflationary cycles, all of that capital has now inflated these stock prices, and everybody is going over there. But at the end of the day, I think, Ashish, these are all assets in themselves. If you're building a company, if you're not building a solid business, valuations are probably trying to follow a trend. Let's say if you build a social media, and if you build an e-commerce place, and I tell that, yeah, boss, I'll give you $1 billion valuation. Why am I giving you $1 billion valuation? You must understand that. And I think if you think that I'm giving you, maybe you can, if you can become the Facebook, or whatever is the reason, if you can become the next Amazon, you must be able to very clearly backtrack and understand that, what are my key goals to reach that sort of a business, to build that sort of a business, to reach those valuations. I think the markets are frothy sometimes, but a lot of times entrepreneurs just come and say that we want funding, rather than anything else. They say that, boss, we have got the idea, and we know what to do. If you can just help me with the funding, and that's the time when I tell them, Ashish, what I just what you tell them, that, yeah, boss, build the business, make it so sexy, and just like if you run behind a girlfriend, the girlfriend, or any girl, probably she'll run away. What you have to do is become so smart and attractive that she becomes attracted to you. So just like that, if you want the investors, build your business as with as great numbers as possible, as great revenues. And today I think the markets are challenging that notion. Today the markets are saying that, yeah, we want a profitable revenue, fast growing business. We don't want a bullshit business that is just increasing valuation for the sake of increasing valuation. And I think the WeWork debacle, Ashish, if you remember the WeWork debacle that happened last year,
Yeah.
that was a smack in the face of several venture capital, or large funds, that just because you tell that this is worth $40 billion or $50 billion, we are
Doesn't
not
look
going to buy that shit. That was the the dialogue from the public marketplace. Having said that, but if you look at this year, that the technology landscape, the SaaS IPOs, the rise in the Tesla stock, as well as all of the other tech rallies that have happened, along with our Indian, Reliance Geo rally as well. I think the markets have accepted that technology has largely won, and it's gonna reshape a lot of the fundamental industries in the world, and they are willing to back the backers. The way the capital is moving, they are willing to back the backers. If you can win it, they're willing to back you. Even if you are a young company, but you can challenge the existing industries. So I think it's an interesting time to be an entrepreneur. You don't raise money for putting it into your pockets. All right, you raise money to build a business, And building a business is, very similar to fighting a war at the end of the day. There's a market out there, you're, battling it out on a regular basis. So these are just resources. So what I would just recommend is that don't get mesmerized, just by valuations. Raise money if it makes sense, if it is a part of your strategy. Don't raise just money for the, for getting your name in the paper, or if you don't know what you are doing. If you don't know what you are doing, it is better to hold off. It's better to hold off, because if you raise a lot of money and you burn through that money, all of this venture capital money comes with very strict terms. You lose your own business. There have been several such cases, where CEOs have lost their businesses, they've been fired. And they might have even gone for an exit later on, but there are liquidation clauses that you don't get the money. So I think, you should, even if you're raising the money, have at least some broad side of an exit, what sort of business you're building. Don't just think short term that, you're going to solve all your problems because you raised a couple of $1 million, or in fact hundreds of millions of dollars. There are several stories of such failed startups as well. But each to his own, Ashish. Each journey is it has to be picked on its own merits. And just like the knife can be used wisely as well as unwisely. I'll go the same with the capital, that no harm in building your valuations and raising capital, but use it wisely, otherwise you can burn yourself as well.
Right. Well, I must end it here, Dharamveer, with the hope that you will let in a 62-year-old into one of your youth hostel.
Absolutely, Ashish.
Chat round the fire chai.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming in today. And
thank you so much, guys.
And I'll ask Karthik if he has anything to conclude. Karthik?
I think it was wonderful listening to you, Dharamveer, and I think you are a inspiration to a lot of young entrepreneurs. And we all look up to you for your kind words. And thanks again for being with us.
It was completely my pleasure, and it was a very nice conversation with you, Ashish and Karthik. And I think I had fun as well. And absolutely, I think, as you also said, that there are many times many senior people, or who have worked 6-7 years, who have just taking a sabbatical, who are at hostels. And that is in fact the fact that we want people who are youth at heart. It's not about the age that really matters. It is about that mindset that we are experiencing, we are growing, we are learning. And I think you completely share that DNA right now. So it will be a pleasure to host you and Karthik anytime at any hostels. Feel free to let me know. And with that,
I'll definitely keep that in mind. Cool. Thanks so much, Dharamveer, for your
okay. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay,
Thanks.
Khamagani as well. Okay.